The chamber was filled with tension as Ambassador Yunji Wu stood before the Sovereignty Council, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. The holographic display before her flickered, showing yet another human colony engulfed in flames. It was New Souls, a world that once housed 16 million people. They were all gone now, wiped out in an instant by the relentless forces of the Creic Dominion. Yun's voice broke the silence, but it remained firm. Honored council members, this is the 7th world we've lost in just 3 months. The Creic fleet moves through our space as though we don't even exist. They ignore every attempt at communication, every offer for peace. All they do is destroy and move on. The Vexian representative, a towering being with crystalline skin, shifted in his seat and dismissed her words with a flick of 3 of his forearms. Ambassador Wu, humanity has been in space for barely 150 years. You have expanded aggressively into territories claimed by the Creics for millennia. This conflict was inevitable. Yun felt a wave of heat rise in her chest, but she held her composure. We followed all the sovereignty protocols. Every colony was registered. Every expansion was approved by this very council. We did everything by your rules. But the Creic Dominion never agreed to those rules. A Talvesh observer, a being older than any of them, let out a deep sigh, his voice echoing with centuries of experience. Your species is new to galactic politics. The Creic Dominion has existed for over 3,000 years. They don't recognize the authority of younger species. Then what use is this council? Yun demanded. What purpose does the Sovereignty Compact serve if it won't protect its members? The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some argued for intervention, others warned against provoking the Creics further. Most just shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unwilling to risk their own security for a species that had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. At that moment, the warlord Thexver appeared on a secondary display. His reptilian face twisted into a grimace. The human infestation will be eradicated in 3 weeks. We will reduce them to their birthplace, where they will remain as a reminder to others of the cost of overreaching. The transmission ended. Yun stood at the speaker's platform, staring at the council members. They avoided her gaze, knowing what was coming. Humanity was too new, too weak to make a stand in their eyes, but Yun knew something they didn't. She knew humanity's resilience. She touched the communicator in her ear, sending a coded message that would change everything. Light the fire, she whispered. As Yun sent her message, the fire of resistance began to stir in the cold, distant reaches of space. Humanity's next chapter was about to begin. Far beyond the outer reaches of Neptune, hidden in a region of space deliberately left off the star maps, something stirred. The facility had remained dormant for 90 years, waiting for a moment like this. Its construction was a relic of a time when humanity first realized they were not alone in the universe, a time marked by fear and uncertainty. During the first contact crisis, humanity had learned the harsh truth: the galaxy was a dangerous place. Back then, diplomacy had won the day, and the facility had been sealed. Its purpose was classified, known only to a handful of humans. Most had forgotten about it, except for those few who remembered the risks of ignoring the universe's dark realities. Captain Elena Rodriguez entered the bridge of the USS Blackstar, a ship designed for war but hidden away from the galaxy's prying eyes. She had been preparing for this moment in secret. Along with her crew, she had spent countless hours running simulations, hoping they'd never be needed. But now, as the Creic Dominion destroyed human worlds with no regard for life, those simulations would become reality. Status report, Elena called out as she settled into the command chair. Reactor nearing full power, Chief Engineer Park Men-Soo reported, his voice calm but tense. Fusion cores are stable. Antimatter systems ready. We'll have full power in 40 minutes. Weapons charging, Lieutenant Chen added, eyes fixed on the tactical display. All banks responding. Magazines loaded. The Blackstar was ready. The ship wasn't built for subtlety or grace. It was a blunt instrument forged in a time of desperation, Humanity had chosen to fight back not with the sleek, elegant weapons of the galaxy's older species, but with what they understood, sheer, unrelenting power. Navigation has plotted the jump to New Bususan, the helm officer announced. Creic fleet confirmed, 47 vessels. They are stripping the mining colonies. Elena studied the display as the ship's tactical system painted the enemy's formation. 47 ships. For the Creic Dominion, that was overwhelming. Their ships were massive, their weapons powerful. They could obliterate a planet with little effort. Their shields could absorb vast amounts of energy, and their firepower was legendary. But humanity had something different to offer. When they first learned that the galaxy was full of species who had been exploring the stars for millennia, humans had feared they stood no chance. But they had a different answer: raw, brute force. They took their understanding of nuclear weapons and made them cleaner, more powerful. They refined them until they could punch through the galaxy's most advanced shields. The Blackstar was humanity's answer to the universe's dark forces, a ship that wasn't sophisticated, but would not go down without a fight. "We are weapons-free," the communications officer reported, voice steady but tinged with urgency. "We have authorization from Earth Command." "Take us to New Bususan," Elena ordered, her voice low but determined. "Let's show them who we are." The Blackstar's engines roared to life as the ship tore a hole through space itself, vanishing in a flash of energy. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's reputation for violence was not just talk, it was a hard-earned truth. As the Blackstar leaped into the vast emptiness of space, the Creic fleet continued their conquest, unaware that their war had just taken a dangerous turn. The Blackstar emerged from the fold in space with the grace of a force of nature. Its engines flared as it punched through the fabric of reality, instantly making its presence known. In the distance, the New Bususan system stretched out before them, the Creic fleet still busy stripping the planet's resources. "CRE fleet at 47 vessels confirmed," the tactical officer reported, glancing at the approaching battle with a sense of quiet determination. Captain Elena Rodriguez's eyes scanned the display. The Creic ships were already in the system, overwhelming in both size and numbers. But the Blackstar had something they didn't: humanity's experience in surviving against all odds. "Open a channel to Earth Command," Elena ordered. Her voice was sharp. "Tell them we're engaging." "Captain, the Creic fleet has locked onto us," Lieutenant Chen announced. "They're already firing on us." Elena's hands tightened on the armrests of her command chair. The Blackstar's shields flared up, absorbing the initial barrage of plasma bolts and kinetic projectiles from the enemy fleet. The ship rocked violently, but it held together. The Blackstar was designed for this. Designed for war. Designed to fight back against enemies that didn't care for diplomacy or peace. Full shields at 60%. Hull integrity at 85%, Chief Engineer Park called out. His voice held steady, but Elena could hear the strain. The Creic weapons were relentless. They weren't like anything the humans had encountered before, smooth, advanced, elegant in their power. But they hadn't accounted for one thing: humanity's refusal to back down. Elena looked at the tactical display. "All weapons, target their flagships. Let them know who they're dealing with." The Blackstar's weapon systems hummed to life. The first salvo from its gamma-ray lances cut through the space between them and the Creic fleet. The energy released was not the sleek precision of a particle beam, but the raw force of a nuclear explosion contained in a beam of focused energy. The Blackstar had chosen a crude approach, but it was deadly effective. The first 3 Creic ships exploded into debris, their shields buckling under the onslaught. Elena didn't wait for a report. She knew the devastation the Blackstar could unleash. She'd seen it in simulations. But this was real. And humanity was showing the galaxy that it was a force to be reckoned with. "Keep firing. Don't let them recover," Elena ordered, her eyes locked on the advancing enemy ships. The Blackstar was relentless, firing again and again, until the space around them was filled with shattered remains of Creic warships. The Blackstar pushed forward, its weapons cutting through the enemy fleet with terrifying efficiency. 17 Creic ships down, Lieutenant Chen called out. The Creic fleet scattered in a desperate attempt to regroup. But it was too late. The damage had been done. "We've engaged the fleet, Captain," the tactical officer said. "They've lost a significant portion of their force. The remaining ships are retreating." Elena allowed herself a brief exhale. The battle had been fierce, but humanity had made its point. They weren't the weak species the Creic Dominion had thought them to be. They weren't just survivors. They were fighters. And the galaxy was about to learn that the hard way. But the battle wasn't over yet. The Creic Dominion had underestimated humanity before, but now, the real war was just beginning. The victory at New Bususan was a harsh lesson for the Creic Dominion. For centuries, they had dominated the galaxy, their warships feared by all. But in the blink of an eye, their pride had been shattered. The Blackstar, a single human ship, had torn through their fleet like a hurricane, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. However, despite the crushing loss, the Creics weren't going to bow so easily. They had their pride, their arrogance, and most importantly, their resources. The retreat was only temporary. Elena knew that the Creic leadership would regroup and strike back, but she also knew that humanity's victory was not an isolated incident. It was the first of many. "We've received word from Earth Command," the communications officer announced, breaking Elena from her thoughts. "They want us to return for resupply and crew rotation." Elena glanced at her crew. She could see the weariness in their eyes. They had fought relentlessly for weeks, liberating colony after colony, and the constant strain was taking its toll. But there was no time for rest. The Creics were already planning their retaliation, and if humanity gave them a moment to breathe, they could regroup and bring their full strength to bear. "Tell Earth Command that we're not stopping," Elena said firmly. "The Creic Dominion hasn't learned its lesson yet. We'll give them no chance to recover." The Blackstar continued its path through the stars, leaving New Bususan behind. Their next target was a heavily fortified Creic supply depot at Kepler Station, a key staging area that was fueling the enemy's war effort. As they approached, Elena addressed her crew, her voice calm but resolute. "We know what we're up against. The Creics will throw everything they have at us, but we will keep pushing forward. We liberate these worlds not just for us, but for everyone who believes in peace." "Yes, Captain," the crew replied in unison. They were ready. But as the Blackstar made its way to Kepler Station, the Creic retaliation was already underway. A massive counteroffensive was forming, and the true test of humanity's resolve was about to begin. The Blackstar emerged from the folds of faster-than-light travel, its massive frame cutting through the void with grim determination. Kepler Station loomed in the distance, its gleaming metal exterior surrounded by a ring of Creic warships, each one positioned strategically to defend the critical supply hub. The station was heavily fortified, and the Creics were clearly prepared to fight for it. But they had no idea who they were up against. "Enemy fleet detected," Lieutenant Chen reported, his voice tight with focus. 8 destroyers, 2 heavy cruisers, and support vessels. They're setting up a perimeter around Kepler. Elena nodded, her eyes scanning the tactical display. She knew what had to be done. "Prepare for engagement," she ordered. "Target their destroyers first. We need to break their perimeter and hit them hard." The Blackstar's engines roared as it surged forward, cutting through space at maximum speed. The Creic fleet didn't hesitate to engage, their weapons lighting up the void with plasma bolts and energy blasts. The first volley of fire slammed into the Blackstar's shields, causing the ship to shudder, but it held firm. The shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the impacts, and Elena's crew remained steady, ready to return fire. "All weapons online," Lieutenant Chen announced, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. Firing gamma-ray lances. The Blackstar unleashed a barrage of energy beams, each one cutting through the Creic ships like a hot knife through butter. The first destroyer exploded in a burst of molten metal and debris, the shockwave sending nearby vessels tumbling. The Blackstar didn't stop. It fired again, another wave of gamma-ray lances tearing through enemy ships. Another destroyer down. Lieutenant Chen called out. Their formations are breaking apart. But the Creics weren't done. They responded with ferocity, launching coordinated plasma blasts and railgun projectiles in a desperate attempt to disable the Blackstar. A heavy cruiser fired a devastating barrage, striking the ship's shields with such intensity that Elena felt the jolt even through her seat. The Blackstar's shields flared brightly, flickering for a moment before stabilizing. "Shields at 45%, Captain," Chief Engineer Park reported. "Hull integrity holding steady, but we're taking a lot of hits." "Keep them up," Elena said, her voice calm despite the intensity of the battle. "We'll break through this. Just keep firing." The Blackstar returned fire with unrelenting force, its cannons roaring as they fired off rounds of relativistic projectiles, the kinetic energy enough to obliterate Creic vessels in an instant. The station's defenses were starting to crumble under the sheer weight of the attack. Kepler Station itself had been designed to withstand sustained assaults, but against the might of humanity's most powerful weapon, it was little more than a target. Within an hour, the Blackstar had destroyed half of the Creic fleet defending the station. The remaining ships were in full retreat, and the station's defenses were failing. Elena didn't give them a chance to regroup. "Target their command center," she ordered. "Take out their leadership. This ends now." The Blackstar's weapons locked on to the Creic command center, and with a final barrage, the station's control tower was reduced to rubble, sending the remaining enemy forces scattering into the void. "Kepler Station is secure," Lieutenant Chen reported. "No sign of remaining enemy forces. We've destroyed their fleet and disabled their supply lines." Elena let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The battle had been fierce, but the Creic fleet had been no match for the Blackstar's might. The station was now under humanity's control, and the Creic forces had once again been dealt a crushing blow. But the Blackstar's victory at Kepler Station was only one small step. The Creic Dominion was reeling, but they would not give up easily. The war was far from over, and the Creic leadership had yet to reveal their true plans for retaliation. After the battle for Kepler Station, the Blackstar drifted in orbit above the devastated supply depot, its crew exhausted but resolute. The station's artificial gravity generators flickered back to life as repair crews moved in, and the remnants of the Creic fleet scattered to the far reaches of the system. For a brief moment, humanity had gained ground, but everyone knew that the war was far from over. "Captain, we've received a transmission from Earth Command," the communications officer announced, breaking the silence on the bridge. "They're requesting a report on the situation." Elena stood up from her chair, her eyes scanning the debris-strewn view outside the Blackstar's windows. The battle had been hard, but it was far from the final confrontation. The Creic Dominion still controlled much of the galaxy, and the war was only escalating. "Tell them the status," Elena said, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "Kepler Station is secured, and the Creic fleet in the sector has been decimated. We've liberated another key location, but we need to keep pushing. We can't give them a chance to regroup." "Understood, Captain," the communications officer replied, and quickly transmitted the report. As Elena walked back to her command chair, Lieutenant Chen looked over his console. "Captain, we've detected a large Creic fleet gathering in the outer systems. It's a full armada, at least 150 vessels. They're heading our way." Elena's eyes narrowed. This was exactly what she had expected. The Creics weren't going to sit idly by while humanity liberated its colonies. They would retaliate, and with everything they had. "They're coming for us," Elena said quietly. "Plot a course for the outer system. We won't wait for them to make the first move." The Blackstar powered up its engines once again, leaving Kepler Station behind. The mission was clear: take the fight directly to the Creic Armada before they could advance further into human space. They couldn't afford to let the enemy build momentum. The Creic Dominion had to be stopped here and now. The Blackstar slipped through the void, closing the distance between them and the incoming armada with unrelenting speed. Elena's mind raced. This was it, the big one. The fight that could change everything. But as the Blackstar approached the enemy fleet, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was brewing. The Creic Dominion had suffered significant losses, but they hadn't yet shown their true strength. What was waiting for them in the depths of space was a threat humanity wasn't prepared for. The Blackstar surged forward, cutting through the dark expanse of space toward the approaching Creic fleet. Elena's hands tightened on the armrests of her chair as her crew braced for the battle ahead. Every decision made in the coming hours would define the course of humanity's survival. "We've detected them," Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "The Creic fleet is forming a defensive perimeter around a massive ship. It's unlike anything we've seen before." Elena's brows furrowed. The Creic Dominion had always relied on their warships' firepower and size, but this felt different. "Give me more details." The tactical display shifted to show the unknown vessel. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Blackstar, its hull reinforced with layers of energy shields and thick armor. But what truly caught Elena's attention was the glowing energy signature emanating from the ship. It was unlike anything they had encountered in the war so far. "What in the hell is that?" Elena muttered under her breath. "We're getting strange readings," Lieutenant Chen continued. "It's emitting high-energy pulses, more powerful than anything a standard Creic ship should be capable of. Whatever it is, it's ready for combat." Elena looked at the readings again, her heart sinking. The ship wasn't just a weapon, it was a statement. The Creic Dominion had hidden something extraordinary, something beyond their typical military capabilities. "Prepare for engagement," Elena ordered, her voice tight. "Target their front line, but I want us to keep our distance from that ship. We don't know what it's capable of yet." The Blackstar's weapons systems hummed to life, firing off gamma-ray lances and relativistic projectiles toward the closest Creic vessels. The enemy fleet retaliated, sending a barrage of plasma blasts and railgun projectiles toward them. The Blackstar's shields flared, absorbing the impact. The battle raged on, but all Elena could focus on was the massive Creic ship at the center of the formation. "That ship isn't just a warship," Elena said, narrowing her eyes as the ship grew larger on the display. "It's their ace in the hole. They've been hiding this for years. Should we try to break through their perimeter?" Lieutenant Chen asked. Elena hesitated. Breaking through would be dangerous, but it was the only way to keep the pressure on the Creics. If they let that massive ship unleash its full potential, it could change the tide of the war. "No," Elena said after a moment of thought. "We need to destroy their support ships first, then focus on that flagship. We can't risk taking it head-on." The Blackstar continued to fire, tearing through the Creic warships with ruthless efficiency. But even as they destroyed ship after ship, the massive Creic vessel remained untouched at the heart of the fleet. Elena knew the clock was ticking. If they didn't neutralize that ship soon, they might find themselves outmatched by the Creic's hidden weapon. "All banks, full power," Elena commanded, her voice growing more urgent. "Target their central reactor. It's the only way we're getting through that thing." The Blackstar's main cannons roared to life, sending another salvo of relativistic projectiles toward the Creic flagship. The energy blast collided with the ship's shields, causing a brief flare of light. But to Elena's surprise, the ship held firm. The Creic flagship had clearly been built to withstand a direct assault. "We're not getting through," Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice laced with frustration. "Their shields are holding at full strength." "We need to keep pushing," Elena said. "Every shot weakens them. Stay on target. Keep firing." For every ship the Blackstar destroyed, the enemy seemed to launch more. But it wasn't enough. The Creic fleet was regrouping. Elena's mind raced, searching for a way to break the deadlock. But just as Elena prepared to give the order for a new strategy, an unexpected signal broke through the chaos of battle. A transmission. From the Creic flagship. Was this an offer for peace? Or was the Dominion preparing a devastating counterattack? The Blackstar continued to engage the Creic fleet with all the firepower it could muster, but the enemy flagship stood resilient, its shields barely flickering with each devastating hit. Elena could feel the tension building, her crew pushing the ship to its limits, but the Creic flagship was proving a formidable obstacle. "Captain," the communications officer suddenly called out, his voice sharp. "We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the Creic flagship." Elena's eyes widened, her mind racing. A transmission from the enemy? It was unexpected, especially after all the destruction they'd caused. Was it a trap? Or were the Creics attempting to negotiate in the face of defeat? "Open the channel," Elena ordered, her voice cold and measured. "All banks, full power," Elena commanded, her voice growing more urgent. "Target their central reactor. It's the only way we're getting through that thing." The Blackstar's main cannons roared to life, sending another salvo of relativistic projectiles toward the Creic flagship. The energy blast collided with the ship's shields, causing a brief flare of light. But to Elena's surprise, the ship held firm. The Creic flagship had clearly been built to withstand a direct assault. "We're not getting through," Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice laced with frustration. "Their shields are holding at full strength." "We need to keep pushing," Elena said. "Every shot weakens them. Stay on target. Keep firing." For every ship the Blackstar destroyed, the enemy seemed to launch more. But it wasn't enough. The Creic fleet was regrouping. Elena's mind raced, searching for a way to break the deadlock. But just as Elena prepared to give the order for a new strategy, an unexpected signal broke through the chaos of battle. A transmission. From the Creic flagship. Was this an offer for peace? Or was the Dominion preparing a devastating counterattack? The Blackstar continued to engage the Creic fleet with all the firepower it could muster, but the enemy flagship stood resilient, its shields barely flickering with each devastating hit. Elena could feel the tension building, her crew pushing the ship to its limits, but the Creic flagship was proving a formidable obstacle. "Captain," the communications officer suddenly called out, his voice sharp. "We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the Creic flagship." Elena's eyes widened, her mind racing. A transmission from the enemy? It was unexpected, especially after all the destruction they'd caused. Was it a trap? Or were the Creics attempting to negotiate in the face of defeat? "Open the channel," Elena ordered, her voice cold and measured. The image of a reptilian face appeared on the main screen, twisted in a grimace of frustration and disdain. It was War Ascendant Thexver, one of the highest commanders of the Creic Dominion. His voice was thick with anger but edged with something else, defeat. "You humans think you have won," Thexver hissed. "You think your weapons are superior, your ships invincible. But you have only delayed the inevitable. You will never defeat the Creic Dominion." Elena remained silent, her hands resting on the console. She wasn't surprised by the arrogance in his voice, nor by the fact that the Creics were refusing to accept their losses. The question was, what did Thexver want with this transmission? "You are fighting a war you cannot win," Thexver continued. "This conflict was always doomed. We are the true rulers of the galaxy. You may have destroyed our fleets, but the Creic Dominion is vast. You will never stop us." Elena narrowed her eyes. This was the same rhetoric they had been hearing since the war began, the Creic Dominion's belief in their own supremacy. They had underestimated humanity at every turn. But now they were starting to realize just how wrong they were. "You speak of inevitability," Elena said, her voice calm but laced with steel. "But the only thing inevitable here is the end of your empire. You've underestimated humanity at every turn. We've already proven we don't back down." Thexver's face twisted into something resembling a snarl. "You have no idea what you're up against. You've destroyed our fleets, but that was only the beginning. We have weapons that can obliterate your kind. You're just too ignorant to understand the power we wield. Elena's grip tightened on her chair, her pulse quickening. She knew the Creics had been hiding something powerful, but now they were being brazen about it. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice steady but probing. Thexver's eyes glinted with a mix of anger and something darker. I'm talking about our planet-killer weapon. A weapon capable of annihilating entire worlds in an instant. And it's on its way to Earth as we speak. The words hit Elena like a blow to the chest. A planet killer. The Creics had a weapon capable of wiping out entire planets. And it was headed for Earth. Thexver leaned closer to the camera, a cruel smile crossing his reptilian features. Your homeworld will be reduced to nothing. Your species will be erased from existence, and we will take your place in the galaxy. You should have never defied us. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Elena staring at the blank screen in stunned silence. The revelation shook her to the core. The Creic Dominion had been holding back their ultimate weapon, a weapon that could destroy Earth itself. Now, humanity's survival was no longer just about winning battles, it was about stopping the planet killer before it reached home. The room was silent, the weight of Thexver's words hanging heavily in the air. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she turned back to her crew. They were all looking at her, waiting for her to give the next command. Their faces were a mix of exhaustion and fear not of the Creic fleet, but of what Thexver had just revealed. Captain, what do we do? Lieutenant Chen asked, his voice steady but filled with urgency. A planet killer, on its way to Earth. Elena gripped the edge of her chair, her thoughts racing. The Creic Dominion had made their move. They were no longer just trying to crush humanity, they were going for extinction. How long until it arrives? Elena asked, her voice hard as steel. Based on their trajectory, it'll reach Earth in approximately 6 weeks, the tactical officer replied. We can track its course, but the weapon is moving at faster-than-light speeds. If we don't intercept it soon, Earth won't have a chance. A heavy silence settled over the bridge. Elena could feel the weight of every eye on her. 6 weeks. That was all they had. And it wasn't just a matter of defending a planet, it was a matter of saving humanity's future. Prepare to jump to FTL, Elena ordered. We're going to intercept that weapon before it reaches Earth. Plot the fastest course to its last known location. Aye, Captain, the helm officer replied, fingers flying over the controls. Captain, Chief Engineer Park said, his voice tight with concern. We're pushing the Blackstar's systems to their limits. The reactor is stable, but the longer we're in combat, the harder it's going to be to keep everything functioning at full capacity. I'm not sure how much longer we can maintain full power. Elena nodded. She knew the risks. The Blackstar wasn't built for sustained long-distance combat, it was a battle-hardened vessel designed for destruction, but even it had its limits. We'll make it, Elena said, determination hardening her voice. We don't stop until that weapon is destroyed. The Blackstar leapt into faster-than-light travel, tearing a rift through the fabric of space as it sped toward its destination. The crew worked in unison, focused on the mission at hand. They didn't have the luxury of time. The fate of their entire species rested on the success of this mission. As the ship sliced through the void, Elena couldn't help but feel the enormity of what they were about to face. The Creic Dominion was desperate, and this planet killer was their final move. But humanity had something the Creics had never accounted for, resilience. We'll make it, Elena repeated to herself, more as a promise than anything else. We have to. The clock was ticking, and the Blackstar raced toward its most dangerous mission yet. Could humanity stop the Creic planet killer before it reached Earth, or would they be forced to confront the darkest chapter in their history? The Blackstar tore through space with a speed that felt almost unnatural. Time seemed to stretch and warp as they rushed to intercept the Creic planet killer, each second bringing them closer to the most important mission of humanity's history. The bridge was alive with the hum of machinery and the tense energy of a crew fully aware of the stakes. Approaching target location, Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice steady but tinged with anticipation. We'll be in range in 30 minutes. The planet killer is on course for Earth's orbit, and there's no sign of the Creic fleet following it. Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the tactical display. The planet killer was still too far away to engage, but she could already feel the dread creeping in. This weapon, whatever it was, had the potential to end everything. The loss of human life, the eradication of Earth, would mean the fall of their entire species. And the worst part? They didn't even know how it worked. The Creics had kept their greatest weapon hidden for so long. Captain, the communications officer spoke up, we're picking up a distress signal from Earth Command. They've detected the Creic weapon and are asking for updates. Elena didn't respond immediately. She could already imagine the chaos on Earth, world leaders scrambling, citizens in panic. If they couldn't stop this, Earth wouldn't just lose its place in the galaxy, it would cease to exist as a thriving, living planet. Send them the details, Elena said, her voice grim. We'll handle it from here. Understood, Captain, the officer replied. The seconds seemed to stretch into eternity as the Blackstar accelerated closer to the planet killer's trajectory. It was nearly impossible to tell just how massive the weapon truly was from a distance, but the readings confirmed it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The energy signatures were off the charts, making every human weapon seem primitive in comparison. Captain, Lieutenant Chen said, his voice edged with concern, I'm reading a massive gravitational anomaly ahead. It's growing rapidly, almost as if the weapon is generating some sort of field to protect itself. Elena's eyes shot to the display, where a swirling mass of energy and radiation appeared around the incoming planet killer. It was almost as if the weapon was drawing power from the surrounding space to shield itself. I knew it, Elena muttered. The Creics aren't just sending a bomb, they've built a force field around it. The realization hit like a sledgehammer. They couldn't just destroy the weapon with brute force. The planet killer's shielding was unlike any technology they had encountered before. If they tried to hit it directly, they risked wasting their energy or, worse, triggering the weapon prematurely. How do we get through that shield? Elena asked, her mind working furiously to find a solution. We don't, Chief Engineer Park said, his voice clipped but calm. We need to get close enough to it to disable the shield generators. I can't guarantee how long it will take to break through the field, but we can try. If we don't, the Blackstar won't survive a direct hit. Elena nodded, feeling the pressure of the moment tighten around her chest. All right, she said, her voice sharp. Plot a course that brings us as close as possible to the weapon's shield generators. I want the enemy to feel our presence, distract them long enough for us to disable the shield. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. We're not just going to blow this thing up. We're going to neutralize it. The crew moved quickly, each member falling into the rhythm of their training. The Blackstar's course adjusted as they prepared to make their move. They were close, too close to fail now. The ship moved through space, the glow of the planet killer's massive shield growing brighter as they neared it. Elena could feel her heart pounding in her chest. The Blackstar had survived battles with fleets, but this was a different kind of fight, one that threatened everything. The fate of humanity rested in their hands. Reactor power is stable, Chief Engineer Park reported. We'll need all of it to breach the shield. I'll make sure we're ready when the time comes. Good, Elena said. Stay on target. And remember, this is it. If we fail here, humanity's future is in the hands of a dying star. The Blackstar was on the brink of its greatest challenge yet. With the planet killer's shield growing stronger by the second, could they disable it before it was too late? The final confrontation was about to begin. The Blackstar hurtled through the void, the massive, glowing shield of the Creic planet killer now in full view. It was a mesmerizing sight, an impenetrable wall of energy that surrounded the weapon like an invisible fortress. Elena could feel her pulse quicken as they drew closer to their target, every fiber of her being focused on the task at hand. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen said, his voice steady despite the intensity, "we're entering the shield's effective range. It's massive, and it's increasing in strength as we get closer. If we don't disable it soon, we'll be too close to maneuver." Elena glanced at the tactical display. The shield was shimmering with a violent glow, its energy output increasing exponentially. The Creics had clearly designed this technology to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at it. But the Blackstar wasn't just any ship. It was humanity's answer to the impossible. "We're getting too close," Lieutenant Chen said, his tone warning of the danger. "We'll have to make a quick pass and disable the shield generators before we're caught in its gravitational pull." "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Elena ordered, her voice low and commanding. "And get ready to fire everything we have on those generators. We'll only get one chance." The Blackstar shook as it moved forward, its engines straining under the pressure of their high-speed approach. Elena's knuckles whitened as she gripped the chair's armrests, the vibrations of the ship reverberating through her body. This was no longer just a mission. This was a race against time. "Shields are holding at 35%, Chief Engineer Park reported. But if we take too many hits, we won't make it through." Elena's jaw tightened. "We won't fail," she said firmly. As the Blackstar closed in on the planet killer's shield, the ship shuddered violently as waves of energy from the shield washed over them. The ship's shields flared brightly, flickering under the assault, but they held. Elena could feel the ship's engines roaring as the vessel pushed forward with unrelenting speed, racing toward the heart of the shield. "Hold steady," Elena shouted to her crew. "Brace for impact." Just as the Blackstar neared the shield center, the ship's targeting systems locked onto the weak points in the shield generator structure. This was their only shot. The ship's weapons hummed to life as the crew prepared to unleash everything they had on the planet killer's defenses. "Firing gamma-ray lances," Lieutenant Chen said, his hands moving with precision across the controls. Now. The Blackstar unleashed a devastating volley of energy. The beams slammed into the shield, causing the barrier to flicker and distort. Elena watched as the shield's glow weakened with each successive hit. They were making progress, but it wasn't enough. "Recharging the lances," Lieutenant Chen reported, voice tight with focus. "We need more power to break through." "We don't have time for that," Elena said, determination in her eyes. "Fire everything we have. Target the generators now. We have to take them down." With a roar of defiance, the Blackstar unleashed its full arsenal, gamma-ray lances, kinetic projectiles, and pulse lasers all fired simultaneously. The ship shuddered as the energy output surged, but this time, the shield didn't just flicker, it cracked. The first weak point exploded in a flash of light, the shockwave sending ripples through the barrier. The crew held their breath. The shield started to ripple again, its power starting to fail. "Shields at 10%, Chief Engineer Park called out. "We're almost through." "Keep it up," Elena ordered. "One more shot." The Blackstar fired again. This time, the entire shield collapsed, the energy barrier crumbling under the assault. The planet killer was now vulnerable. But as the shield fell, a new wave of energy blasted from the weapons core, forcing the Blackstar to swerve wildly to avoid being hit by the surge. "Captain, we've neutralized the shield," Lieutenant Chen said, his voice a mixture of relief and disbelief. "We're through." The Blackstar had done it. They had breached the unbreachable. "Prepare to engage the planet killer's core," Elena said, her voice filled with determination. "This fight is far from over." With the planet killer's defenses down, the Blackstar had one last chance to destroy the weapon before it could annihilate Earth. But what other surprises did the Creics have hidden within their deadly creation? The Blackstar was now within striking distance of the Creic planet killer, its path cleared by the collapse of the energy shield. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The true danger wasn't the shield, it was the weapon itself. Even without its protective barrier, the planet killer was still an enigma, and its capabilities were unknown. The Creics had built it for one purpose, to annihilate everything in its path. "We've broken through, Captain," Lieutenant Chen reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "We've got a clear shot at the core. No more shields, but we need to be precise." Elena nodded, her mind laser-focused. "No margin for error," she said, her voice cold with resolve. "Lock onto the planet killer's core. We'll disable it in one shot, or we don't get a second chance." "Firing trajectory locked," Lieutenant Chen said. "Launching all weapons." The Blackstar's cannons hummed as they powered up, sending out waves of energy toward the heart of the planet killer. The first salvo slammed into the weapon's core, but to Elena's surprise, it didn't collapse. Instead, the weapon pulsed, sending out a wave of energy that nearly pushed the Blackstar off course. The shockwave rattled the ship, but the crew held fast. "Shields at 20%, Chief Engineer Park called out, his voice strained. "Hull breaches on decks 5 and 8. "We're holding, but barely." Elena's grip on her chair tightened. "Fire again. Target the weak points on the core's exterior. We're not stopping until it's disabled." The Blackstar fired again, its weapons lancing out with devastating precision. This time, the planet killer's core trembled as its internal structure began to break apart. Elena could see the energy readings on the display spike. The weapon was faltering. They were making progress, but they needed more time, more power. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen called out urgently, "the planet killer is activating its secondary systems. It's starting to charge its weapon." The words hit Elena like a punch to the gut. The Creics had prepared for this moment, too. Even if they had failed to protect the weapon's shield, it had one final trick up its sleeve. The weapon was still capable of firing. "How much time until it's fully charged?" Elena asked, her voice hard and commanding. 30 seconds, Lieutenant Chen replied, his hands moving faster on the controls. "It's already gathering energy for the blast. We can't let it fire." "Increase power to the main cannons," Elena ordered. "Full throttle on all engines. We'll make sure they don't get the chance." The Blackstar's engines roared as the ship surged forward. Every system hummed with power as Elena pushed them to the limit. The ship lurched violently as it made its final approach, the planet killer now directly in their sights. Elena could feel the strain in the ship's structure as it was pushed beyond its design, but there was no time to worry about that. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. "Ready to fire," Lieutenant Chen said, his voice tight with focus. "We're in range. Fire." Elena commanded, her voice sharp and resolute. The Blackstar unleashed its full firepower in a concentrated blast, the gamma-ray lances slamming into the heart of the planet killer's core. The ship's weapons roared to life, sending waves of energy that tore into the weapon's fragile internal systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the core exploded. The planet killer trembled as its reactor reached critical mass, and then, in a blinding flash of light, the weapon disintegrated. The shockwave rippled through space, sending debris scattering in all directions. The Blackstar was thrown off course by the explosion, but its shields held strong, absorbing the energy blast. "Direct hit confirmed," Lieutenant Chen said, his voice filled with relief. "The planet killer is gone. We did it." Elena allowed herself a brief moment of relief. The weapon was destroyed, and Earth had been spared. But she knew that this battle was only one small part of a much larger war. The Creic Dominion would not simply retreat in the face of defeat, they would regroup, they would retaliate. But for now, humanity had won a major victory. "Report," Elena said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion beginning to creep in. "Shields at 10%, hull breaches across multiple decks," Chief Engineer Park said. "We're in critical condition, Captain, but we're still operational." Elena nodded, her mind already moving to the next steps. "Prepare for a retreat. We need to return to Earth for repairs. The Blackstar has done its job. But we need to plan our next move." The battle was over, but the war was far from finished. The destruction of the planet killer had sent a message, but it had also made the Creic Dominion more determined than ever. The Blackstar had delivered a crushing blow, but the fight for humanity's future was just beginning. The Blackstar hung in the void of space, its damaged hull still holding firm despite the violent battle they had just endured. The planet killer was nothing more than shattered debris, its immense threat now eradicated. For the first time in weeks, Elena allowed herself to relax just a little. Earth had been saved. But the victory came at a steep cost. The ship's systems were barely functional, and their shields were almost completely drained. They had fought a battle that felt like it could have been their last, but humanity had held strong. "Captain, Earth Command is requesting an immediate update," the communications officer called, breaking the brief silence. Elena's face remained impassive, but inside, she could feel the weight of the moment. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Creic Dominion had been dealt a blow, but they were still a powerful force, and the galaxy had learned something vital today: humanity would fight until the very end. "Open the channel," Elena ordered, her voice even. "Let them know the planet killer is destroyed. We're heading back to Earth for repairs, but this war isn't over. Not by a long shot." The view on the main screen shifted to a live feed from Earth Command. The faces of military officers, diplomats, and scientists flickered onto the screen. They looked relieved, some even smiling, but it was clear they were waiting for the next steps. Captain Rodriguez, a senior officer from Earth Command, said, his voice filled with a mixture of gratitude and concern. "We've seen the data. The planet killer is destroyed, and Earth is safe, for now. But we've been analyzing the Creic response. This isn't over, is it?" Elena looked directly at the screen, her gaze steady. "No, it's not. The Creic Dominion will regroup. They've suffered a major setback, but they will retaliate. We need to keep the pressure on them. We've already begun reinforcing key systems, Captain," the officer replied. "We're also mobilizing fleets for a counteroffensive, but we need time to rebuild and resupply. The Creic Dominion is still a formidable force. We can't do this alone." Elena took a deep breath. She knew Earth Command was right. They needed more resources, more ships, more support. But there was a glimmer of hope. They had proven something today. Humanity could fight back, and they didn't need to rely on the galaxy's complacent powers to protect them. They had the strength to stand on their own. "We won't be alone," Elena said, her voice calm but firm. "We've learned that we can't wait for others to save us. We fight for ourselves, and we fight for each other. We've done it before, and we'll do it again." The officer on the screen nodded, understanding the weight of Elena's words. "Understood, Captain. We'll continue preparations. Earth is safe, for now, but we'll need your guidance for the next phase." "Stay vigilant," Elena replied. "And remember, this is humanity's war now. We choose how it ends." With that, the transmission ended, and Elena leaned back in her chair, her mind spinning with the possibilities of what came next. The Blackstar had done its job, but there were still 6 more Creic-controlled colonies to liberate. 6 more worlds that had been taken from humanity. And Elena knew they wouldn't stop until every last one of those colonies was free. "Status report," Elena said, her voice steady, as the bridge crew continued their work. "Shields at 8%, hull integrity at 45%, but repairs are underway," Chief Engineer Park responded. "We'll need time, Captain. But we can make it back to Earth. The Blackstar will be ready for the next fight." Elena nodded. They had done the impossible today, but the war was still far from over. The Blackstar had proven that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest military power the galaxy had ever known. The Creic Dominion had underestimated humanity, and now, they were learning the cost of that mistake. "Plot a course for Earth," Elena ordered. "We're going home, for now. But as soon as we're ready, we take the fight back to the Creic Dominion. Let them know we're coming." The Blackstar, battered and scarred from the battle, slowly began its journey back toward Earth. As the ship moved further from the wreckage of the planet killer, Elena stood at the front of the bridge, staring out into the stars. The war wasn't over, but humanity had taken its first real stand. And for the first time in a long time, Elena felt the spark of hope rising in her chest. The galaxy had underestimated them. But they wouldn't make that mistake again. With Earth safe and the Creic weapon destroyed, the Blackstar was heading home. But this was just the beginning. The war for humanity's survival was far from over. And next time, the Creic Dominion would learn just how unstoppable humanity could be when pushed to the edge. The journey back to Earth felt like a lifetime. The Blackstar, battered and scarred from the battle, limped through the void, its systems operating at a fraction of their capacity. Elena sat in her chair, her eyes focused on the stars outside the viewport, the weight of their victory, and the price they had paid, pressing down on her shoulders. She was tired. They all were. But this wasn't the time for rest. Not yet. Earth had been saved, but the war was far from over. The Creic Dominion had just lost a major asset, but their rage would burn hotter now. Elena knew they wouldn't stop, they couldn't stop. The Creic military was built on pride, and they wouldn't let a setback like this go unanswered. Captain, Lieutenant Chen spoke up, breaking the silence. We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They're requesting a status report on the Blackstar's condition. Elena looked over at her crew, her expression hardening. Tell them we're on our way. Repairs are in progress, but we've got bigger problems to face. Aye, Captain, Lieutenant Chen replied. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. The galaxy had watched the Blackstar destroy the Creic planet killer, had seen humanity fight back with a force they didn't expect. But Earth's victory wasn't without a cost. The crew was battered. The ship was damaged. And most importantly, there was no telling how many more battles lay ahead. The comms officer tapped a few controls, and soon, the holographic images of several high-ranking Earth Command officials flickered onto the bridge's display. Captain Rodriguez, the lead officer began, his voice a mix of respect and worry. We've seen the Blackstar's report. The planet killer is destroyed, and Earth is safe, for now. But we are aware that the Creic Dominion is not finished. They will regroup and retaliate. Elena nodded. We're not finished either. The Blackstar is heading back for repairs, but we've got 6 more Creic-controlled colonies to liberate. And we won't stop until they're all free. The officer nodded slowly, but his face showed a deep concern. The problem is resources, Captain. Earth is stretched thin. Our fleets are in disarray, and it will take time to rebuild our forces. We're mobilizing what we can, but we need help. We need more ships, more crews. We can't keep fighting the Creics without the support of the rest of the galaxy. Elena's jaw clenched. She understood the challenge. Earth was just one piece of the puzzle. But what she didn't say aloud was that humanity had already learned the hard way. They couldn't rely on the galaxy to save them. They had to stand on their own. We've done more than they thought we could, Elena said, her voice calm but firm. We don't need anyone's help to finish this. We've already proven we can stand up to the Creics. They've seen what we're capable of. The next phase of this war belongs to humanity. The officer's face remained grave, but his respect for Elena was evident. Understood, Captain. You've shown the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. But we need to make sure that when we strike next, we don't just survive, we win. We will win, Elena said with certainty. But it starts with us. We're going to hit them harder, faster. We have the Blackstar, and we've got the will to see this through. No one can stop us now. As the transmission ended, Elena leaned back in her chair, a small but determined smile crossing her face. The Blackstar was more than just a ship, it was a symbol. A beacon for all of humanity that they wouldn't back down, that they would fight for their place in the stars. And no matter how many battles lay ahead, Elena knew that the Blackstar would lead the way. She looked out the window again, watching as the stars passed by. The war wasn't over. But humanity had shown it could take the fight to the enemy, and now, there was no turning back. "We've fought for this moment," Elena whispered to herself. "Now, let's finish it." As the Blackstar made its way home, the galaxy would be watching. Humanity had proven it was ready for the challenges ahead. And now, as the war continued, every decision would shape the future of the galaxy. The Blackstar docked at Earth's orbital station, and Elena stepped out onto the bridge for the last time before the crew began their well-deserved rest. They were greeted by Earth Command's highest officials, their faces a mix of awe and admiration. The Blackstar had done the impossible. But as Elena walked past them, she couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest battles were yet to come. Humanity had proven itself in the galaxy, showing that they could fight, survive, and win against impossible odds. The Blackstar had become a legend, and so had the crew that manned it. But as Elena stood on the balcony overlooking the city below, she knew the next steps would be even harder. The Creic Dominion would retaliate. And this time, they wouldn't make the same mistake again. "You're going to need more than just the Blackstar to win this war," one of the commanders said, his voice quiet but thoughtful. Elena turned to face him, her expression steely. "We don't need more ships," she replied firmly. "We need resolve. We need to show the galaxy what humanity can do when it's pushed to the edge. And we will." As the galaxy watched, humanity's war for its future would continue. The Blackstar had lit the fire, and now, every battle, every victory, would be fueled by the flames of defiance. The war was not over. But humanity had learned that strength came not from the weapons they wielded, but from the spirit that refused to bow. And with that, Elena Rodriguez and the crew of the Blackstar would continue their fight, knowing that the next battle would be the one that defined their place in the stars. A new dawn had begun. Humanity had proven its strength. The fire had been lit. And the galaxy would never forget what happened when they pushed humanity to its limits. The Blackstar's crew had barely touched the ground when the next set of orders arrived. Earth was still reeling from the recent battle, but there was no time for celebration. The Creic Dominion wasn't known for mercy or restraint, and Elena knew that the next phase of the war would be even more dangerous. The crew had done their duty, but the ship wasn't finished. The Blackstar wasn't just a weapon, it was a symbol of what humanity had become. And as the war continued, humanity's resolve would be tested again and again. The galaxy had seen what the Blackstar could do. But the question was, how far would they go to protect their home? To protect each other? As Elena stood in the shipyard, watching the Blackstar undergo its repairs, she felt a deep sense of purpose. The crew had fought for Earth's survival, and they had done it with everything they had. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. "Captain," a voice called from behind her. It was Lieutenant Chen. He was standing with a few of the other officers, each of them looking at her with respect and a hint of concern. "We've received some unsettling news. The Creic Dominion is preparing something big. They're massing fleets, hundreds of ships. And the Sovereignty Council has confirmed it's not just a retaliation, it's an all-out offensive." Elena's mind immediately shifted into tactical mode. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "What kind of offensive are we talking about?" "The Creics have been building up their forces in secret," Chen replied. "And now, it seems they're ready to deploy their full might. They've gathered over 400 warships in one fleet. They're targeting our colonies next. Earth's defenses are prepared for this, but they'll need more time to fully regroup." Elena's eyes narrowed. "We don't have time. The Creic Dominion wants to finish what they started. We've got to strike before they do." She turned to the rest of the crew, who were now gathered around her. "We've shown them that we can fight back. Now we need to show them we won't stop until every human world is free. The Blackstar will lead the charge again. We're going to hit them where it hurts." Lieutenant Chen nodded. "I'll start coordinating with Earth Command." If we move quickly, we can catch them before they're fully organized. Elena felt a cold rush of certainty settle over her. Humanity had already learned how to survive. Now, it was time to show the galaxy that they knew how to fight back, and win. Let's move, she said. And this time, we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for the future of every human being out there. The Creic Dominion will fall. With the Blackstar ready for its next mission, the crew prepared to face an enemy unlike any they had faced before. The stakes were higher than ever. But humanity had shown its strength, and now it was time to see how far they could push. Let this message ignite your faith, rekindle your hope, and spur you to stand firm on your journey. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this story stirred your heart, drop a like, share this video with someone who needs it, and hit that subscribe button to catch more content like this. May God's blessings overflow in your life, and I'll see you soon.